Hello and welcome to yet another episode of World Connect. It's where we bring you news from around the world, from politics, films, art, culture and lots more. The world is no more an exclusive entity. We often refer to it as a global village, and therefore every development that takes place anywhere is as much important as domestic affairs. I'm Shreya Upadhyay, and in the next half an hour we'll get you the latest global happenings, interesting developments and fascinating stories. But first, let's take a look at the focus of today's show. People of Balochistan continue to live under terror and despair as Pakistan's longest civil war rages on. Catalonia vows independence as political parties move forward on roadmap in regional parliament. Santa visits Canadian town early this year for a 7-year-old boy battling cancer. And it gets spooky and weird as the world celebrates Halloween. China has said that it will not regard any findings by an international tribunal on the South China Sea. Philippines has brought a case in the tribunal over disputed islands in the region. The Permanent Court of Arbitration based in The Hague had ruled that it has the jurisdiction on the issue. Manila insists that the UN Convention on the Sea should be used to resolve the row. Philippines and China have both ratified the convention.
The Chinese government will not accept or be involved in the arbitration initiated unilaterally by the Philippines. The ruling is null and void and has no binding effect on China.
Either the convention is a relevant legal instrument and is applied equally and fairly to all states, no matter how big or powerful, but all states parties, or it's just a worthless piece of paper.
The disputed waters, also claimed in part or whole by Vietnam, Malaysia, the Philippines, Taiwan and Brunei, have also become the stage for a tussle for regional dominance between Beijing and Washington, the world's two largest economic and military powers. This week, the American USS Lassen guided missile destroyer sailed within 12 nautical miles of at least one of the land formations claimed by China, sparking fury in Beijing. An angry China handed out a strong rebuke on the issue. And the death toll in the powerful earthquake that hit Afghanistan and Pakistan this week has crossed 380. A strong 7.5 magnitude earthquake rocked the two countries on Monday. In Pakistan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province is the worst hit area. Victims are still in desperate need of aid and relief material, as many are forced to sleep in sub-zero temperatures as winter sets in. More than 10,000 homes were damaged in northwest Pakistan, while more than 7,600 homes were destroyed in Afghanistan. Well, Vidya Devi Bhandari has been elected as Nepal's first female president. 54-year-old Bhandari took oath of office on Thursday. She has long campaigned for women's rights and was among the politicians who pushed for ensuring women's rights in the new constitution adopted last month. And news from pole-bound Myanmar now. An opposition lawmaker was attacked with machetes ahead of Myanmar's historic November 8th election. Naing Nan Lin, a lower house lawmaker from Aung San Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy party, was attacked while campaigning. Suu Kyi is expected to do well in the polls riding. However, the constitution bars Suu Kyi from becoming the president regardless of the election outcome. Last week, we showed you a Baloch activist heckling Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. Well, he's not the only one enraged and agitated. Here's more on the Baloch story.
Free Balochistan! Free Balochistan! You are Bin Laden friend! You are Bin Laden friend! Sir! You are Bin Laden friend!
Baloch activist Musti Khan heckling Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif in Washington. Khan was silenced in no time as he raised slogans demanding freedom of Balochistan. But the long-standing problem continues to fall on deaf ears. Despite being rich in natural resources, Balochistan, Pakistan's largest but least populous province, has not tasted the fruits of development. The province has been witnessing bloodshed since Pakistan's birth. The Baloch fought two major freedom campaigns against the state. from 1973 to 77, and the second one since 2005. Both were crushed by the army with an iron hand. The ongoing movement was escalated after the death of veteran Baloch nationalist leader Nawab Akbar Bukhti in August 2006. Bukhti's supporters blame Pakistan for his killing. Reports of constant violation of human rights also attracted global attention. The army is accused of indiscriminately eliminating Baloch nationalists and activists. The alleged kill and dump campaign sped up post-2009 after the civilian government took office. The army was accused of setting up death squads to kill those posing threats. Balochistan is divided among three countries, Pakistan, Afghanistan and Iran. But the reports of atrocities surface from the Pakistani part. Thousands of deaths and many more missing form the basis of discredit to the army. The military handling of the problem may have started showing results from an army standpoint, but the human cost is irrecoverable. Baloch armed groups now remain weak and fragmented. The security situation is said to be improving, but as many accuse, it all came after Pakistan's own people were brutally killed by their own military. Despite a need felt by everyone in Pakistan for a political process, a concrete outcome is missing. Balochistan, the battleground for the longest civil war in Pakistan's history, is waiting for a breakthrough. A breakthrough that brings hope for Baloch people. Hope for a life minus conflict, war and violence.
Couples in the world's most populous nation, China, will now be allowed to have 2 children. The communist giant has scrapped the decades-old controversial one-child policy. Here's a report.
As China abandoned its decades-old one-child policy, for some the move will have little impact on the number of children they choose to have. Even when many couples who were allowed to have another child under the 2013 rules decided not to do so. It was the case especially in cities where the cost of bringing up children is expensive.
Because considering my work is really hectic and my child is still little, we were never planning to have a second baby. So this 2 new child policy for me doesn't have that big of an impact. There's the financial pressure. We haven't paid off our mortgage. The other thing is that the expense of raising one child is already really high. So we are worried about how to bring up a second child.
With a lukewarm response to the 2-child policy, experts believe extra efforts are needed to ensure it is effective. The change is intended to balance population development and address the challenge of an aging population. The one-child policy was considered controversial as it forced many abortions and continued to be criticized by rights groups and activists. The announcement comes amid slowdown of China's economy. The country gave the limited relaxation to the policy in 2013.
And how about enjoying Venetian design in Asia? China replicated the iconic Italian architecture. And before we shift to Europe, here's a glimpse of it. Catalonia has moved forward on a roadmap for its independence from Spain. While Catalan parties have offered a declaration in the regional parliament, Spanish leadership took no time to condemn it, terming any such move as illegal.
Undeterred by strong Spanish opposition, determined to do all it requires, Catalonia has moved forward on a roadmap for its independence from Spain. Catalan parties have offered a declaration in the regional parliament, which is expected to get through by the 9th of November. This will be followed by a constituent process for full independence within 18 months. As the temperatures rose in Catalonia, Spanish leaders took no time to condemn it, terming any such move illegal.
El Estado no va a renunciar.
The state may use any available judicial and political mechanism contained in the Constitution and in the laws to defend the sovereignty of the Spanish people and of the general interest of Spain.
Y las leyes.
Catalonia is at loggerheads with Spain over the issue. The country's constitution does not allow any region to break away. Catalonia's president, Artur Mas, is facing judicial proceedings for November 2014 referendum, which favored secession from Spain.
Soc responsable de tot això.
I'm responsible for everything. For listening to many people, for listening to many city councils, and for setting up the ballot boxes.
Hagi d'estar declarant.
Some opinion polls claim that the majority of Catalans would like to remain within Spain if the region is offered more favorable tax regime and laws that protect its language and culture. In a breakaway situation, Spain will lose its richest region, which accounts for almost a fifth of the country's economic output. But that will also put in question Catalonia's status in the European Union, leading to newer challenges. Madrid has threatened to block any move towards Catalonia's secession, but with Catalans paying no heed to Spanish warnings, the tussle is poised to get more interesting.
From world powers holding a roundtable on Syria crisis to a club inferno in Romania claiming many lives. Watch all this in Eurowrap.
The United States, Russia and more than a dozen other nations asked the UN to start a new diplomatic process between Syria's government and opposition groups. The appeal came after talks were held in Vienna with an aim of reaching a nationwide ceasefire and political transition. There was an explicit demand for President Bashar al-Assad to quickly leave power. These talks were the first that have been held, bringing together all foreign powers backing rival sides in Syria's civil war. Meanwhile, Syrian activists said a bombardment by government forces killed at least 40 people near Damascus. Amid the ongoing refugee crisis, Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras has said that he is ashamed to be a member of the European Union, which has been passing the buck over the issue. Tsipras' comments came after more than 20 refugees were killed when a boat carrying about 140 people capsized near the Greek coast. About 3,000 people have died attempting to cross the sea between Turkey and Greece this year. More than 25 people, mostly teenagers and young people, were killed after a fire broke out at a nightclub in Bucharest in Romania. The place took hold of the collective club on Friday night, causing a stampede for the exit. Officials said more than 150 people have been injured. Hundreds of people were inside the club, which was hosting a free rock concert. A Russian airliner crashed in Egypt's Sinai with over 200 passengers on board. Egypt's PM confirmed the crash. The Airbus A321 had just taken off from the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh on its way to the Russian city of St. Petersburg. Sheikh Amir, the last British resident to be held at the US prison camp in Guantanamo Bay Navy Station in Cuba for 13 years, has finally been released. Amir was never charged with any crime and had been cleared for release by US authorities in 2007. However, he was not freed until now. Amir is a Saudi national married to a Briton. He arrived in the UK on Friday.
Colombian rebel group National Liberation Army has held 2 soldiers as hostages after capturing them in an attack that killed 12 troops. The attack, which the government said killed 11 soldiers and 1 police officer, targeted a convoy transporting result sheets from the country's local and regional elections on Sunday. The Colombian conflict has killed more than 2 lakh people and uprooted 6 million since it erupted in 1964. Well, after his victory in Guatemala's presidential polls, Jimmy Morales was straight to talking business. The former comedian has vowed a clean government free from political corruption and promised some unorthodox policy plans like giving smartphones to poor children. He also committed to reconsidering the role of the military in the country. And well, what do you expect to see in a dry, barren desert? Not blooming flowers at least. Well, as we move towards Africa, take a look at the rare picturesque bloom that turned Chile's arid desert of Atacama into a magnificent carpet of mauve-colored flowers. And in news from Africa, South Sudan's government and the opposition made way in the peace accord that was reached in August this year, paving way for talks on key security sections. Now, what remains to be seen is whether this deal will bring in lasting peace to the African nation.
It is from here that we will be in a position now to talk and say that the actual implementation of the agreement will start.
South Sudan's government and the opposition made headway on the peace accord reached in August. The settlement paves way for talks on key security sections, including demilitarization of the capital Juba, position of troops, and creation of a unified army.
The country is ours, and we believe we can fix it again, and we are confident.
Peace has long been elusive to this African nation. The region, formed from 10 southernmost states of Sudan, has been at war way before its genesis. It has witnessed 42 years of conflict since the guerrilla movement in 1955. In 2011, South Sudan gained its independence, making it the world's youngest country. 99% of the inhabitants had voted for the split, but the jubilation was short-lived. Fighting erupted in December 2013 after a power struggle between President Salva Kiir and former Vice President Riek Machar, splitting the country along ethnic lines. The on-swing violence has killed tens of thousands of people, displaced over 2 million. A report by the African Union lays bare the scale of war atrocities. Killings, torture, mutilations, rape and forced cannibalism. The country is a living hell for millions. Fighting has prevented deliveries of humanitarian aid, prompting fears of a famine. People are living in catastrophic situation. Nearly 4 million people face severe hunger. At least 30,000 are facing starvation and death. Ceasefire agreements have been reached several times and then shattered within days or even hours. The latest deal might bring in hope, but whether it will bring lasting peace is something only time will tell.
Almost all top African leaders were out of the continent at the same time this week for the India-Africa Forum Summit in New Delhi, again bringing into focus the tremendous potential and importance that Africa possesses in contributing to the world economy.
As New Delhi played host to African nations for India-Africa Forum Summit, focus once again was on immense potential Africa carries when it comes to contribution to global growth and world economy. Africa's role in the world economy derives from its economic importance to the rest of the world, in international trade and as a destination for international investment. Though the least developed continent in the world, Africa also presents enormous opportunities. According to a report, Africa, also the world's fastest growing continent, has grown faster over the past decade than East Asia. Resource-rich Africa is fast moving towards new democracies and growth economies, opening up new avenues for potential partners. In end 1990, only 3 African countries had democracies, but now the number is 25. Foreign direct investment in the continent has tripled. Per capita income registered and increased by more than 30%. With important performance on health, education and other fronts, consumer spending is predicted to double in next 10 years. The India-Africa Summit was the biggest as far as African participation is concerned. The ambitious summit saw representation from all 54 African countries, including heads of state and the governments of many of them, besides the African Union, with accompanying 400 business delegates. The summit was also seen by many as a precursor to Paris climate meet. With India and Africa highly vulnerable to climate change, their united voice will put forward more empathetically the voice of developing world and help secure a better deal. The summit offered India and Africa an opportunity to reinforce their shared identity, enabling them to usher in bonds of understanding and partnership, and tackling the challenges of terror and climate change.
And here's some heartwarming story. For 7-year-old Ivan Livasage, Christmas celebrations began early when thousands came together to wish the Canadian suffering from brain cancer. What was meant to be a small family affair became a grand fest, with Ivan being showered with presents.
Christmas bells rang early in the small town of St. George in Ontario. all to wish a 7-year-old a Merry Christmas. Nearly 7,000 people rallied together to put up a Christmas parade for Ivan Leversage. Ivan has been battling inoperable brain cancer for almost 5 years, with doctors telling the family that time's running out. Ivan's mother decided not to wait until December for Christmas.
I've already seen what cancer has done to Evan, and I wasn't going to sit around and wait and see if it was going to steal a Christmas from him.
Initially, what was meant to be a close family affair turned out to be a citywide celebration after the word spread about the ailing child's wish. In a truly heartwarming gesture, people decorated the town and hung up signs that read, "Merry Christmas, Ivan." A voice recording of SpongeBob SquarePants.
Ahoy, Evan! SpongeBob SquarePants here. Gary my snail is here too. We just wanted to.
And a Batman hat from the family of Canadian pop star Justin Bieber were among the few gifts the little boy got as his Christmas present.
Give out government strength with love, the Biebers, also known as Batman.
Ivan's dream of being in the police force also came true, with the Brantford Police Department making him an honorary member. There was even a gift for Nicole Wellwood, a small pendant with Ivan's picture, to keep him close to her heart. A GoFundMe account titled One Last Christmas to help with Ivan's medical bills has also been set up. While Ivan's brothers too enjoyed the celebrations, they were well aware of why Christmas had come early.
It's kind of sad to hear the story and what's going on, but it's pretty fun. It's pretty awesome that people are doing this.
For Ivan's family, the support was overwhelming.
Nobody should have to prepare to say goodbye to a 7-year-old, and to know that there's that many strangers out there that are sending you positive thoughts and stuff is just, mind-blowing.
For Ivan, with all that attention from those near and far, the early Christmas was magical. And for the city, this was Christmas in all true spirit.
And well, for all the Bond fans out there, the latest film in the James Bond series is breaking all box office records. Take a look at this and much more in Showbuzz.
The latest in the James Bond series, Spectre, is breaking all box office records. The British royals too could not hold back their excitement, and they were seen attending the world premiere of the latest 007 installment. Daniel Craig reprises his role as Secret Agent 007 for the 4th time in the movie, directed by Academy Award winner Sam Mendes. He has depicted God on Hollywood's silver screen, but Morgan Freeman is still unsettled as he came to Jerusalem with questions about religion. Freeman was recently in the Holy City filming a documentary, The Story of God, that explores faith and theology. Models strutted down a floating runway in Paris as fashion and culture intersected on board a glass boat cruising down the river Seine. The show featured designers from 6 continents.
And it's that time of the year when the dead come back to life, literally. Yes, it is Halloween and people are celebrating it with great fervor. We get you the celebrations from across the world.
It's Halloween, the time of year when celebrations get a bit spooky. Jack-o'-lanterns lit, tricks played, sugar rush treated, stories of the dead shared, and fortunes told. Halloween merrymaking is uncanny. Having its origin in the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain, the day marks the end of summers and the beginning of dark, cold winters. The day when the spirits return to Earth. Celebrations begin days before Halloween. In Florida and Santiago, several thousand costumed zombies overrun the streets. The annual Halloween parade in Japan saw thousands dressed up in creepy costumes. In England, human werewolves howled at the moon. The Halloween fun is not just confined to humans. Animals too had their share of fun. With ghost-themed parades and twin-wide parties and a bit of mischief here and there, Halloween is one time of the year when people love giving into their fears.
Well, this brings us to the end of today's show. Continue sending in your feedback and comments as you have been on worldconnect.ddnews@gmail.com. Before we sign off, we leave you with a boisterous mix of whim, color and fantasy that filled the streets of Mexico City on Saturday. Hundreds turned out to watch the 9th parade of Mexican folk art sculptures known as Albrijes. Enjoy and see you again next week. Thanks for watching.